Folks, welcome back. How's everyone doing today? My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. I had a really interesting patron message the other night. I wanted to make a video. And somebody had messaged me asking, Rudy, do you adjust like your risk? And do you adjust your goal of how much you're... Because everybody knows my goal is, 6 to 9% a year. Sweet spot, 7 to 8% is kind of my annual goal to grow or get a return on all categories, right? So the message was, do I change that number or do I change the difficulty, or do I go for higher returns when situations like inflation go to 10, 20%? Well, I mean, Rudy, if you're trying, because there was a thing about a year ago where I had a bunch of people that was shared on I don't know, MySpace or Facebook or a back page or something, and somebody said, this idiot Rudy's goal is to make 7, 8% a year. Let's just say 7 for the video. And inflation's running 10. This guy's trying to make a return, so he's negative 3% a year. And I remember that was there was kind of some throwing shade and some interesting people in that moment when people are saying, well, Rudy, why is your return lower than inflation? You're guaranteed to lose actual purchasing power each year. So I wanted to make a video discussing. So now that we've had enough time to go by and we've been able to actually think about this stuff. So first, the short answer, no. I don't shift my attitude or behavior or purchasing, buying, selling. I don't change anything based on what the government says inflation is at. In my opinion, inflation is always 5, 10, 15, 20% every year for the last 20, 30 years. And depending on what category you measure it in, will dictate how you are very pro or con inflation and whether or not you agree with it. That's always been my opinion. So just trying to get any form of growth or uptick in asset classes for me is just the goal. I don't use that as a benchmark of what I should do because the government says inflation is at 7%. Oh wait, we're dropping inflation. I mean, as of this filming, the government says inflation is back down to like 2.5%, 3%, right? I mean, in some categories, it's probably 2, 3%. Other categories, it's probably negative. You look at the graded comic book world, the luxury Rolex, Patek Philippe, AP craziness world, it's negative, right? Everything's going backwards, right? You look at literally, I don't know, comic cards or Marvel cards, or you look at graded video games, they're all still going backwards. So you really can't just say, well, inflation says this, so I need to do this now. Again, the goal of all this stuff is to create a path long term. That's the only secret to this game, okay? Because as we've discussed in this channel, there's no set 7% return you can make where every year you get exactly 7. The S&P over the last, 10, 20, 50, 100 years? Averages like 10 to 12? And there's pockets of time. Like I remember back in the day, you can go from, 2001 through 2011. I think it was 0. It was exactly the same. It was called a lost decade until obviously it roared back and it overcompensated and the average returned back to normal long term. So again, you can't use short-term noise, short-term data, and what you see online as your excuse or okay, well, they're saying that, I better do this. You can take it all into consideration and take it as one variable on the pirate scroll of decision-making things you have to deal with, but you can't do that. It doesn't work that way, okay? Because, they always say, well, in high inflationary times, last year, you should always be in the stock market because the market will usually go up and adjust for inflation. Well, the stock market was flat. The S&P and the NASDAQ and the Qs from the peak of 2021 to the summer of 2023, it was 2 years of literally flat to negative. You could have invested during that inflationary period in the S&P or in the Qs or the NASDAQ, whatever, and guess what? In 2 years, you would have made 0 or you would have been down 5, 10%. Or if you had bought some SPACs or chasing hype stocks or chasing alt crypto coins or anything, you probably lost 50, 70, 80, 90%. And that's, it's so easy to build stories around the narrative. And when you deal with this investing in collectibles and, it applies to everything. I can look at New Magic, I can look at the original high-end vintage Lego. We're talking, we can look at the original, what am I looking at here? We can look at a factory-sealed Lego, literally, wow, that's a cool system. 6076, the Dragon thing, unopened, from what year is this? 1993. And yeah, that was probably $50 in 1993. Sealed, that's probably $500 to $1,000 now. So it's probably 10, 15 times its MSRP. But everything's the same. You could take Bitcoin, you could take Lego, new or old, you could take Magic, you could take Pokemon, you could take Weiss, you could take Flesh and Blood, you could take Sorcery, you could take the new stuff, you could take the old stuff, and you can take real estate, and of course you can take stocks, bonds, you can take cash, you can take CDs, money. Everything shifts, okay? So using certain time periods that, Rudy, inflation's running double digits. We hit 10, 15% inflation. Well, it was probably higher than that. That's what the government told us in the peak about a year ago. But at the same time, I mean, what are you going to do all of a sudden different? You're going to pull all your money out of the stock market? You're going to dump all your collectibles and put it in what? Tips? What, Treasury inflation-adjusted things? And you're going to ride up the big return for inflation-adjusted bonds or some sort of adjustment or adjustable yield? And then a year later, today, inflation cools back off, and then all of a sudden your investments are making 1, 2, 3% again, when the S&P is up, what, 25% year to date? You can't maneuver and time these things. It doesn't work that way. This was just such a good question. So to revert back, Rudy, do you change your goals or your target return based on the environment or the inflation or anything? The only thing I look at for adjustments is I'm a sucker for a contrarian investment thing. I like to look at markets in a contrarian point of view. The markets and the items that have tanked, the markets and the items that aren't doing well, I get very attracted to the markets in sectors that everybody thinks is trash. Everybody calls heavy bags. Everybody like when everybody leaves and is going to chase surging sparks in Pokemon, or everybody's going to want the new Marvel, okay, for Magic the Gathering. When everybody's chasing a certain thing, it leaves pockets in like vacuums because all the money flows down the river to the path of least resistance where, you know, well, Rudy, you got to buy tech stocks, the Magnificent Seven. You got to buy the Qs, tech stocks to the moon. Okay, you know, that is the current hot thing. AI, Nvidia to 100 gazillion, right? But, you know, which is great. Some people made a lot of money, but trying to chase that, like right now, you could still make money. But I assure you, probably most of the easy money's been made. Not that you can't still make money, but it's probably going to be more of a normal rate of return. But looking at, like, you can look at sectors of the market. Like, you can look at consumer, everything from discretionary to staples to food stocks to restaurants that, you know, inflation and labor beat them up. You can look at oil and energy companies. You know, you can look at these areas that are not in favor, right? You can look at stocks that are out of favor. And, you know, if you can figure it out, or if you can get an edge, or if you can do research, that kind of approach historically can be more lucrative if you have the time and knowledge to deal with it, which most of us don't, which is why the S&P is pretty much spies with the best for most people. The SPYs is essentially what most people need to do. Let it go, do your monthly thing, then just live your life and not give a shit. It's the same thing. Like right now, the Lego collecting investing has cooled off a lot, right? The new stuff, you got a bunch of new stuff going out of print. Not much is going up. Nothing's really tanking. Old stuff, all the stuff behind me, it's pretty calm, pretty quiet. You know, Rudy's oil paintings, 18th, 19th century, European, French, German, Austrian, Italian, all these different paintings and things from museums, universities, galleries. You know, these things are, you know, $50,000 painting in 1999 at Christie's. You know, I can probably bid on today and get it for $10,000 when 20 years ago it sold for $50,000 because nobody wants that stuff. Nobody wants Persian rugs. Nobody wants old oil paintings. That's not hip. It's not modern. You know, it's not part of the hype culture. It's just, you know, I'm very attracted to that because it's fun and easy to build positions and be a part of something if you enjoy it and if you don't have to fight a lot of people to get these things. You know, that's what I did for the last 2 years. I was focusing on just buying so many collections, sealed product, vintage collections. You guys have seen hundreds of collection buying videos in this channel. And in the last few years, you notice I bought a ton of collector boxes, new Magic, old Magic, everything. And, I mean, the average Timmy doesn't know, but have you guys noticed the collection buying videos on this channel have really reduced to almost nothing? what is it, like once every month or two now? Well, some are, people don't want it to be filmed, but the rest of it is, well, the opportunity isn't as widespread as it was a year or two ago. A year ago, the amount of messages I would get daily of just dumping sealed product and everybody giving up and trash and everything was substantial. Now it's declined quite a bit. It's just part of the market cycle. A year or two ago, I was spending a ton of money buying all these draft boxes from Magic, buying all these collector boxes. Well, the market's already shifted a lot. I think it's going to keep going, but again, that's kind of what I focus on. So the concept of trying to change your decisions in life based on the government or what the government tells you, or a political election, or any form of news cycle, or, X-raying Pokemon boxes, it's all over with. Ooh. What was before that? The Commander, or after that? The Commander thing, we're all quitting Magic because they banned things and then everything blew up and now it's okay. There's always going to be something that's going to make you nervous or say, oh, wait, now Universes Beyond is taking over Magic. Magic's definitely going to die. It can't survive this. I mean, this is against everything I agree with. You're always going to have something that you can talk yourself out of, okay? But no, if you really just want to keep life simple and you just want to enjoy yourself, all you should really do in this world is focus on a primary residence, because you got to have a roof over your head, and essentially have your emergency cash, get out of debt, and then dump everything in the S&P 500, wait 30 years, and do nothing, and just enjoy your life. That is the simplest, most basic, best piece of advice for 99% of people in America. That's really all there is to it. Now, it's not that fun. It's not that sexy and exciting. Personally, I enjoy Legos, vintage, new Lego. I enjoy all the card games. I enjoy being a part of that. It's something that gives me excitement every day to look forward to. That's, when I was ridiculed for 2 years for buying 1,000 boxes of all the Scarlet Violet. And everybody was like, what an idiot. This shows Rudy doesn't have a fucking clue. And then suddenly all those people just disappeared, got quiet. Then maybe they closed their Patreon account. They stopped bashing Rudy videos. It's not cool. It's not cool right now to make anti-Rudy bashing videos or posts. Because everything's kind of, everything I reported on, and now the market turned, and it's like, wow, look how smart Rudy is. No, not really that smart. Just told you guys have done this long enough. And here's a pro tip. Sometime in the next 5 years, we're going to have another market downturn. And everyone's going to make fun of me for buying a bunch of product and Legos and boxes and cards and real estate, and everything's going to drop. And everyone's going to say, oh, God, you see that Rudy guy? I'm not going to do anything different. But the public's perception will always ebb and flow based on the market. And they will determine if Rudy's in a favorable or unfavorable light on anything. No one's ever going to tell you that you should put all your money in Lego and buy Legos everywhere, and you're going to make the biggest return. That's not true. Now, I like it because it's fun. And yes, you can make money in it. So if it underperforms the S&P, I still enjoyed it. If it overperforms, wow, what a cool year. It's the same thing with Magic and Pokemon. Yes, Pokemon now is slaughtering everything. The returns in Pokemon, in modern sealed product of Pokemon, every single sealed booster box of Pokemon has annihilated the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year return of any market index. I mean, Evolving Skies has outperformed Nvidia, like the best performing stock in modern times. But that's, you're going to have weird things happen. Okay? You're going to have stuff like that happen. But you can't handpick, Evolving Skies and say, this is why we need to put everything in Pokemon. Because people message me all the time, Rudy, if Pokemon performs the best, why do you do all this shit? Why even buy Magic? Why even buy Weiss? What's the point of, all the smaller card games? Why don't you just put everything in Pokemon? Because you feel that way because Pokemon's booming right now. Nobody sent me that message in the last 2 years. I didn't get that message in 2022 and 2023. People were just angry because, everything was overpriced or you couldn't get Sword and Shield boxes. And then Scarlet Violet started, I don't know, 12 to 18 months ago? Nobody said that. Everybody just made fun of it. You can't change and deviate and go all in. You can never bet the farm. That's why people, for those of you out there, the gamblers, gamble. That's why I don't buy option contracts. I'll do, every once in a while we'll do as a group guys for fun for $100 or something, but I don't really gamble and place large options and derivative bets. I don't do that. Now, again, when I have a stock, let's say I pay $100 for a stock and I got a block of 100 shares and it runs to 150 a share, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of crazy. I can sell the stock, or I can sell a covered call contract against my shares, and if it keeps going up, well, I keep the premium. It forces me to sell and take profit. So I sell other people some covered calls with short maturities, maybe 1 day to 1 week, but overall, I don't buy options and derivatives. I use them as a hedge against some of the positions that run up, or if the market's going to tank. But overall, that's very small stuff, and most people don't need to do that unless you have millions in positions or millions in the market. If you're, again, just throw it in the S&P and do nothing. But you cannot sit here in 2024 and say, Rudy, I should have put everything in Magic Collector boxes. Rudy, I should have put everything in Lord of the Rings Holiday Special boxes. Get the hell out of here. That's not true. Nobody would have done that. Okay? Rudy, I should have put everything in Pokemon boxes. I'd be a gazillionaire. No. In the last 18 months, nobody thought that was a good idea to buy endless Scarlet Violet boxes. That's what I'm saying. So the conclusion of this rant is, to answer the patron's question, great idea, by the way, thank you very much. No, I don't deviate based on the government giving me what they feel inflation is at. Number one, I think most government reports are full of shit. I don't think it's calculated. I think the number is so vague and generic, you can't apply context and detail to it, so therefore, it's useless generic data. Number two, you can't deviate that quickly. You can't just change your direction in life and patterns and goals every week, month, quarter, or year. You have to diversify. Ladies and gentlemen, the only free lunch in this world is diversification. It's the only thing that's free. If Rudy has Bitcoin and crypto, real estate, Magic, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, Weiss, Sorcery, One Piece, Force of Will, if you have all these positions, plus Bitcoin, plus real estate, plus Lego, plus some things I don't want to say, plus paintings and art, there's always going to be a time when one or two of these categories are going to boom. Right now, you see Bitcoin's back to all-time high, 72, 73,000 a coin. This is the filming of this. Have you seen, Rudy? The S&P is an all-time high. Have you seen, Rudy? Real estate's been flat all year long. It's not going up anymore. Oh no, real estate's going to tank. I'm going to wait. I'm going to time the real estate market and buy a new house when the market tanks. Oh, Rudy, have you seen Lego? They're starting to retire things. It's always each category. Sometimes they can have big nuclear level trends where everything moves together. If there's a major systemic risk where everything ripples. But overall, that's the point. Everything moves independently so that you average normal 7 to 9% returns. And that is all there is to it. Anyone who promises you 10, 20, 30, 40 plus returns, they're lying. They're trying to scam you. They're trying to sell you a program, or they're simply just doing some Ponzi BS shit, because the real world doesn't operate that way. Remember that even the S&P, 2 years, 0%. Oh, year 3, 30%. Oh, look, I still average 10% a year. That's how it really works, okay? You can have a Lego set. I don't know, should I pick up a random Lego set? I'll pick up a random Lego set. Oh, the glue on that's even coming off. Jeez. A Lego Hobbit 79016, 2014, 10 years old. This is probably a $30 set. I don't know what it is today. Maybe it's triple, $100 a piece. Factory sealed, well, with tape that's falling apart. Very cool looking. But again, you can't predict that. You don't know what items are going to do what. And that's something that you cannot just, oh, I'm angry. Surging Sparks, it's expensive. Surging Sparks is $145 on TCG Player plus tax. That's $160. It's the same as the Pokemon Center. It just happened to spike to MSRP. Whatever. It is what it is. People are going to be angry. It is what it is. And I tell you all the time, skip it. Focus on other things, other opportunities. Is Scarlet Violet base in Paradox, is that still at 100, 110? I think it's probably, it may have, I've been telling you guys that for the last few weeks. Focus on like SVO1, SVO4, even Stellar Crown or Temporal. But I believe I saw some patron messages yesterday. I said a lot of those sets, Rudy, you were mentioning, money's already been moving. So I don't know if any of those are still around 100, 105, 110. They may, by the time you watch this, be like the 120s, 130s now, and they may be already moving up 10, 20%. But that's what I'm saying. Just keep emotion out of it. Focus long term. And yeah, that's why we do what we do. And thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Hopefully I get this video out before November. I'm filming this at the end of October. Let's see here. November's going to be crazy, folks. Dustmore and play boxes 116. I believe we're doing foundation play boxes for 116. Surging Sparks, I don't even care if you guys buy it or not. I'll do 2 or 3 boxes and I'll take like $5 off TCG Player. Who cares? Just honestly, focus on other stuff. We got some cool Weiss things, and got a Pokemon throwback to Lost Origins. I haven't mentioned it, but I'll say it. We do have our Theory and Legends booster box sale coming up. You can do a half case, mini case of 6 boxes, or a master case of 12. We're going to have our Theory and Legends sale coming up for those of you guys who just want cheap boxes. I think that's about it. We got some other smaller things, but I don't want to mention it yet. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a beautiful day, and as always, think for yourself. If it's too good to be true, someone's probably bamboozling you. Ah!